Well, good morning, friends. It's good to see you all here today. Good to have you tuning in online with us this morning as well. If you're on YouTube, Facebook, Church Online, wherever you are watching today, thank you so much for checking us out. In fact, if you're in the room, let's give a howdy on the count of three. Y'all ready? 1, 2, 3. Be sure to like and share, send some text messages, invite some folks to watch along with you today. And we'd love to see you here in person next week and have you back here in the room. So if you're online in the room, thank you so much for your giving, your generosity, whether that's in person, online, USPS, whatever it is you're doing. Thank you so much for your generosity, making a huge difference in people's lives. And I love getting to hear the stories of transformation that take place because of that generosity. So why don't you turn to your neighbor real quick and let's just say, let's go. Let's go. Come on now. Come on, turn. Let's go. Let's go. I don't know that I've ever been able to get up here and say that Georgia and Georgia Tech are undefeated at the same time. I mean, come on now. I've been doing this for like 15 years. I don't know I've ever been able to say that. That's amazing. That's amazing stuff. Hey, so back in the day, if you are under the age of probably 25, this might be brand new news to you. They actually used to make TV shows. And so they would like make TV shows, sitcoms that they would actually put on regular broadcast TV. How many of y'all are old enough to remember that taking place? And the way it kind of worked was it was always about friendships. It was always about relationships. And so it kind of just got my brain going and thinking through what are some of those like just amazing relationship TV shows that were there, all about friendships, things that made you laugh, things that made you cry, just like, they were just there all the time. So here are a few, got a list here. How about Golden Girls? Come on, any Golden Girls people out there? Come on, thank you for being a friend. Come on now. Yeah. But I mean, no, we got Blanche, we got Dorothy, we got Rose, we got Sophia. I got really depressed, and I'm going to depress you as well. So Rue McClanahan, who played Blanche, on the Golden Girls. I'm 45 years old now, and I found out that whenever she started filming this show about senior citizens living in retirement home, she was 51 years old whenever she started filming that, and that's getting a little close now, y'all. I'm just saying, that does not feel good there. But how about this? Let's go. What about Friends? Any friends in the room? Yeah. All right. Okay, all right. Yeah, so, you got Ross, you got Chandler, you got Joey, Phoebe, and Monica, Rachel. You got to love them. Or how about this? Seinfeld. Any Seinfelds out there? Any Seinfeldian? Okay, yeah. George, Elaine, Kramer, and Jerry. And I guess they were friends. They were kind of mean to each other, but I think that they were friends. Now, if you are Gen Z, you're lost already. And you're like, I have no idea what you're talking about at all. And so I got you. Stranger Things. All right, any Stranger Things out there, okay? Lester, Will, Lucas, and Mike, anybody? I haven't seen a single episode of this thing. That's kind of where I am, all right? So Stranger Things there. Or how about this? Let's go to The Office. All right, any Office fans? There we go, all right? Dwight and Michael, their friendship is just probably one of the funniest that exists. And so here's what's interesting. Is that through Hollywood, through culture, as we just kind of look at this, it's obvious to us that relationships are important, people value friendship, what is there, all the elements of friendship and what it brings into our life. People just value relationships because relationships are important. In fact, research really just kind of starts to back this up and bolster this idea that we need friendships in our lives. Relationships are actually the key to living a long and healthy life. Online, you can jump in the chat on this and let us know. But in the room, raise your hand. How many of y'all know someone or knew someone who lived to be 100 years old? 100 years old, okay? All right, yeah. So actually, the oldest living person just died, I think, 10 or 12 days ago. She was 117 years old, plus a few days and months and weeks, and she died. She lived over in Spain, but 100 years old. That's quite the, I guess you call it an accomplishment, but that's like quite the feat, might be the right way to put that, to live to be that old. Well, there's actually a place that has the highest population of 100-year-old people. It is a little Italian island called Sardinia. We got a picture of it up here behind here. So I don't know about you, but I'm ready to go. And not just because I want to live to be 100 or anything, but there are 10 times as many 100-year-old men as there are in all of mainland Europe that live right here on this tiny little island. And it's one of the very few places in this world where women don't outlive men on average. So guys, just saying, we could all go. And so, but despite the hard labor of shepherding and farming that many of these guys do to make a living, they outlive Europeans and North Americans by an average of 20 to 30 years. I mean, they're outliving us, all while working into their 90s, like just still getting after it at 90 years old. And so this really piqued the interest of a psychologist named Susan Pinker. And so she went to the island to try to learn what is it about these guys that causes them to live so much longer than everybody else. And as she was trying to do her research, one of the things she found was she could never get a one-on-one interview with any of these men because all of their friends kept coming in and interrupting the interview anytime she would try to get one of them on their own by themselves. They were just always surrounded by other friends and relationships. And so what she and other researchers have found is that our health is actually more interdependent than it is independent. Listen to what she says. She said, if you play cards or have coffee with friends once a week, that will give you a 10 to 15 year survival advantage compared to someone who sits in front of a screen all day. So there you go. Some of y'all, with the amount of coffee that you drink and the amount of card playing that you do, you're going to live to be 140. Congratulations, right? Okay, but that's what takes place, though. It is a very healthy thing for us to do, to be in community, in social circles. There's a 2023 study that found that social isolation is significantly associated with an increased risk of dementia, and that older adults who are socially isolated are more likely to experience cognitive decline. There was another study in 2024, just this year, that revealed that social isolation contributes to brain atrophy, particularly in the hippocampus part of our brain, which is crucial for memory and cognitive function. And what it found is that individuals who are socially isolated have smaller hippocampal volume and performed worse on cognitive tests. So your brain shrinks whenever you are isolated. And so just like the things that we know make us live longer, like eating well, diet, exercise, those things, don't drink too much, don't sunburn your way to skin cancer, those things, having a group of friends that you can rely on will help your health. There's another researcher, his name's Moran Surf. He's a neuroscientist up in Northwest. He might be a moron, I don't know, but he found that when two people are in each other's company, that their brain waves actually begin to look identical, almost identical. So this is what he says. He says, this means that the people that you hang out with actually have an impact on your engagement with reality beyond what you can explain. And one of the effects is you become alike. And so here's what that means. Like right now, here, even in this room, that since you are in the presence of more than one person, that all of us, our brain waves are now getting in sync with one another. It's why we're going to laugh at the same things. It's why we're going to nod our heads at the same thing. It's why we're going to go, oh, okay. It's why whenever we're singing songs, we kind of start to think the same thoughts. Because whenever we're together, everything just kind of starts to fall in place. Now, here's the thing. If you've been coming to church for a little while, this shouldn't surprise you. That who we hang out with has an impact on our life, and that relationships are important because, this is about a couple thousand years ago, there was a Jewish king named Solomon who wrote these words in Proverbs chapter 13, verse 20. He said this, walk with the wise and become wise, for a companion of fools suffers harm. You become like who you hang with, and what research is confirming is what we've already known, It's that our friendships determine the direction and the quality of our life, and that our friendships are just as important to our spiritual growth as things like reading scripture, praying, attending church, anything else. Your relationships, your circles, your friendships, they matter. And so today, as we talk about impact and how we can move from intention to action, many of us, as we watch today or as we've come into this room, we have all intended to have strong relationships. Very few people wake up and say, I want to be socially isolated. Some people do, okay, but very few people do. But it's moving into action and moving from intention and actually saying, I'm going to put myself into the environments to where I can have strong, healthy relationships. That's what we're talking about today. Because over and over and over, as we read through the Bible, we see just how valuable friendships are. Whether it's Aaron and Moses, Naomi and Ruth, Paul and Silas, Paul and Timothy, Paul and Barnabas. I mean, even Jesus. Jesus had 12 friends, close friends. In fact, some say that was his greatest miracle. He was a 30-year-old man that had 12 friends, okay? Just a great miracle. But even in there, he had 3 close friends, Peter, James, and John. The Bible is filled with friendships. But today, I want to focus on a particular relationship, particular friendship, that you may or may not be familiar with. It's a story in the friendship of David and Jonathan. And so today we're going to be in 1 Samuel chapter 18, 19, and 20. So if you've got a Bible, I'd love for you to grab that and just kind of open up to 1 Samuel chapter 18. And we're going to work through David and Jonathan's friendship. Now, David, you've probably heard of, even if you never went to church, didn't grow up in church. David's probably biggest claim to fame was that he defeated a giant named Goliath. And so you've probably heard of David. Jonathan, on the other hand, he may need a little bit of an introduction. He is the oldest son of King Saul. He is a fierce warrior. One of my favorite stories comes from 1 Samuel chapter 14, so you're going to have to go read that on your own. But the short of it is this, is that Jonathan decides to take on a portion of the Philistine army, even though he only has a sword. There's only 2 swords in the entire land of Israel at this point, his and Saul's. And the Philistines are about to take them out. And so Saul's just like, no, we got to wait this out, And Jonathan's like, well, that's dumb. Why should we do that? So he runs across a battlefield in plain sight of the Philistines, scales a cliff with him and just his armor bearer, sword in his mouth, and they climb on up, and he takes out 22 Philistine soldiers all by himself, and that causes the Israelite army to go, dude, we actually could do this, you know? And so they rout the Philistines. It is awesome. It's like a scene out of Rambo, all right? And so if you want to think Jonathan, that's what you need to think. You need to think Sylvester Stallone, just a red, headband on and just taking people out. This is a bad, bad dude. He's amazing. And so you can kind of understand why after David stands up to Goliath, why Jonathan and he become such great friends. Because Jonathan's, like I said, he's Rambo, and he's seeing this kid that stood up to a giant with 3 rocks, and he's like, dude, I think we could be friends, Did we just become best friends? Yep, we sure did, And so that's Jonathan and David right there. And this is how the writer of 1 Samuel says it. He says in 18 verse 1, he said, after David had finished talking with Saul, Jonathan became one in spirit with David, and he loved him as himself. Now, on the surface, there's not a lot of things that make these guys similar. I mean, David's a country boy, Jonathan's a city boy, David's the youngest, Jonathan's the oldest, but they find this kindred spirit, passionate for the Lord, fierce warriors. And they're like, I think that there's something special here. In fact, for many of us, as we stop and we think and we ponder over the relationships that are in our life, they probably all began in a similar fashion. Maybe there weren't a lot of similarities, but there was just something there that as you just kind of started hanging out with them, you started to realize, oh, wait a second. There's something here. There's something here. And so over the next few chapters in 1 Samuel, we see how this friendship plays out, and it lays out very, very simply. We're going to get a really easy outline today, and we're going to get to see 3 characteristics of a good friend, all right? So let me just give you 3 characteristics of a good friend from the lives of Jonathan and David. So here's the first thing. A good friend is someone who promotes. They promote. Here it is, 1 Samuel chapter 19, verse 1 through 6. So Saul told Jonathan and all the attendants to kill David. Saul's not a great dude, all right? So he's not the hero of the story. But Jonathan had taken a great liking to David and warned him, "My father Saul is looking for a chance to kill you, so be on your guard tomorrow morning. Go into hiding and stay there. I will go out and stand with my father in the field where you are, and I'll speak to him about you, and I will tell you what I find out." And then listen to what it says. Jonathan spoke well of David to Saul, his father. You might want to underline, circle, highlight that phrase. But he spoke well. He spoke well of David to Saul, his father, and he said to Saul, "Let not the king do wrong to his servant David. He hasn't wronged you. What he's done has benefited you greatly. He took his life in his hands when he killed the Philistine. The Lord won a great victory for all Israel, and you saw it and were glad. Why then would you do wrong to an innocent man like David by killing him for no reason?" Saul listened to Jonathan and took this oath: "As surely as the Lord lives, David will not be put to death." Now, at this point in Saul's life, he is a paranoid, crazy, hate-filled, out-to-get David guy. I mean, he's just lost it. I mean, the Spirit of the Lord has left him. He is no longer, God's chosen instrument to be the one that the kingdom is going to run through. He's already handed that off to David. And Saul's just lost it, man. He's crazy at this point. And so he's out to get David. He's chasing after him. And so what Jonathan does is he goes before his father. And what is he doing? He's promoting David to Saul. He's putting David's interests ahead of his own. He spoke well of him because Jonathan had his friend's interest at heart. And he put David's interests above his own interests. I mean, remember, Jonathan is son of the king. That's who he is. So that means he's next in line for the throne, isn't he? If Saul dies, he's the one who gets to take the throne. And so really, if you get down to it, David threatens Jonathan's position, his inheritance, all those things. And Jonathan, in that moment, could have said, "You know what, Dad? You're right. We should take him out. He's kind of shady. I don't know, man. He's just kind of a little bit different. I got a funny feeling about this guy." But instead, what he does is he puts David's interests ahead of his own. And so here's a question I just want you to ponder for just a moment. Who is it that you have in your life that looks out for your needs? Who is it that you have in your life that has your best interests at heart? And then all of our mamas taught us this at some point. If you want to have a friend, you gotta be a friend. So here's the other question: and who are you looking out for? That's the question. Who do you have in your life that is looking out for your interests? And whose interests are you looking out for? As I ponder my own life, there are a lot of names that I can go through and just think through, who have had my interests, who've promoted me, who have spoke well of me, and who have opened doors for me that I never would have been able to open for myself. One of the names that comes to mind is Mark. He's been here multiple times. He's preached here. But he is the reason why I'm probably employed here at Corinth Christian Church 19 years ago. Because he's the one that got the call from this church asking, "Do you know of a good youth minister, or at least a youth minister, who could come and help us out?" And even though I was his kid's youth minister, he said, "You need to call him." He put my interests, the interests out ahead of his own. Who do you have in your life that would do that for you? And who would you do that for in your life? Because that's what good friends do. And so we say, I'm going to take my own interests and I'm going to put them on the back burner. I'm going to put your interests ahead of mine. And you're going to promote them. Here's the second thing a good friend does. A good friend protects. If you flip over to 1 Samuel chapter 20, Saul's still trying to kill David. And so David comes to Jonathan looking for help. And Jonathan says to David, he just says this: "Whatever you want me to do, I'll do it for you." Everybody needs a friend who says that, right? Whatever you need, I'm going to do it. I got you. I'm going to take care of you. And so they come up with this plan, and it's a dinner plan, and Jonathan's like, we're going to find out if my dad's really out to get you, and so here's what we're going to do. There's going to be this dinner, it's planned, and I want you to not show up. And whenever you don't show up, my dad's going to ask the question, why isn't David here? And what I'm going to tell him is that, well, you had to run to Bethlehem to go do a sacrifice with your family, because everybody needs to go visit family from time to time. And so I'm going to do that. And if my dad isn't upset, then we know he's not really out to get you. But if he loses his mind, then we know he really is wanting to kill you. And I'm going to let you know, I got your back here, buddy, okay? So they go to the dinner, and David doesn't show up. And Saul's like, where's David? And Jonathan says, well, he had to run to go visit his family, and Saul just loses his ever-loving mind. He just loses it. He's furious. And so Jonathan knows, man, my dad really is out to get David. And so this is what the writer tells us. Look at verse 30 of chapter 20. It says, Saul's anger flared up at Jonathan, and he said to him, you son of a perverse and rebellious woman. Yeah. Don't I know that you have sided with the son of Jesse to your own shame and to the shame of the mother who bore you? For as long as the son of Jesse lives on this earth, neither you nor your kingdom will be established. Now send someone to bring him to me, for he must die. Told you he lost his mind, right? And he loses it. But in all of this, notice, Jonathan had David's back. And he protected Jonathan from his dad. And so my question to you is who do you have in your life that has your back? Who protects you? Proverbs 17 says this, a friend is always loyal, and a brother is born to help in time of need. Who is it that you have in your life that says, no matter what happens, I'm not going anywhere because I'm devoted to this friendship. I'm devoted to this, and we're gonna make this work. It's going to stay constant. We're going to stay committed to this, because everybody needs a friend who's going to fight for you. Everybody needs a friend who's going to fight against you sometimes and say, I'm not going to let you go to ruin. Now here's the thing. Let me tell you the truth about friendship real quick, all right? Let me just maybe burst a bubble for you real quick. Truth is, most of the time, people become your friend because of what they can get from you. Okay? Now, before you get too offended, I want you to realize that most of the time you make friends with somebody else is because of what you get from them, right? Because that's just generally how it works. Some people, resources, they're fun to hang out with. They help you get stuff done. You know, they're just a blast to be around, and you're the same. You're the same for others. But here's the thing: when people are only our friends, or we're only their friend because of what we get from them, what that proverb is telling us in Proverbs 17 is that when things get rough, when things need energy, when they need investment, whenever things are collapsing and imploding, that's whenever friends who are only in it because of what they get from you, they go, yeah, this is a little more than what I bargained for. But what Solomon is saying is that there is a friend who will stick with you no matter what. And we need people in our circles who are like that, who are going to fight for us, who are going to protect us. Somebody who say, I will do whatever it takes, man. I'm here for the long haul. I'm not going to let you get to the bottom. I'm going to be there even if it costs me something. Who protects you? Maybe another way to think about this would be to ask this question is, who will tell you the truth to your face and defend you behind your back? Who do you have in your life that will speak truth to your face, even if it's hard to hear? But then you know that they've got your back everywhere else. For me in my life, this is a smaller group, but one of my closest friends is actually Jeremy Carnes, our worship guy. We've been friends, I think we're going on 24 years now. And we've known each other through a lot of things. And I can honestly say I don't have a whole lot of people in my life like Jeremy, who will tell me the truth to my face, and yet I know that no matter what's going on, he's got my back. It's remarkable. Like I said, it's a long friendship. In fact, just recently I was just telling him something, and I was going off about something, and he's like, well, you got to stop thinking that, right? It's like, yeah, I do. Who fights for you like that? And who's going to go out and protect your back whenever you're not in the room with them? In fact, here's another way to ask this question. So who is standing up for you? And who are you standing up for? Who do you do that for? Who do you tell the truth to their face and you defend them behind their back? Who is it that you do this for? We need friends in our lives who are going to protect us. That's how we make it through the difficulties. So a good friend promotes, a good friend protects, and here's the last one, is a good friend is present. And this is near the end of chapter 20. And despite all of Jonathan's efforts, Saul is just determined that he's going to kill David. And so David's only way out is he's got to run. And you can imagine how difficult this is for him. He has to leave everything behind, and he's going to spend the next few years just running for his life from Saul. And so the last time that David and Jonathan see each other, this is what it says. It says that David got up from the south side of the stone and bowed down before Jonathan 3 times with his face to the ground. And then they kissed each other and wept together. But David wept the most. Jonathan said to David, "Go in peace, for we have sworn friendship with each other in the name of the Lord, saying, 'The Lord is witness between you and me and between your descendants and my descendants forever.'" And then David left, and Jonathan went back to the town. In David's most difficult moment, who's present? It's Jonathan. Friends, who do you have that will be present in your pain? Who will sit with you when you hurt? And who are you present for in their pain? This was a couple years ago, and just really difficult season in our lives, and things just weren't the way that we were hoping or had prayed that they would ever be. And it was one evening, just got some really just rough news. It was scary, uncertain, not for sure what was really happening. And so I fired off, I don't know how many text messages, and just copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste, copy, paste. It's like, I just want as many people as I can possibly have who will be praying in this situation. And so I sent them out, and I got all kinds of text messages back, and all those other kind of things. And just like, bro, we got you, we're praying. But, it was my friend Cody who is the one who called me. And I'm standing there in Kroger, and we're like buying stuff, I don't know, probably ice cream, because it's just the way we felt. It's like, we're just going to bury our feelings in galleries. And it was Cody that's the one that called me. And he's like, "Hey, what are you doing?" I was like, "Well, we're at the store just like trying to distract ourselves right now." And he's like, "Hey, I just want you to know I'm praying for you." And he's like, "I want you to just move over in the store somewhere." He's like, "Because I'm praying for you right now." And he just prayed for me over the phone. And it was just remarkable, that he was just there. Just there. It wasn't a long phone call or anything like that. He's just present for me in my pain. Everybody needs a friend that they can call. Everybody needs somebody who's going to be there for them in the pain. And who is it that you have who will be there for you? Who is it that you can call at 2 a.m. and you know that they're going to answer? Who can call you at 2 a.m. and know that you're going to answer? You need a friend who's going to be present for you. So chapters 18 and 19 and 20 are some of the most dangerous times in David's life. And here's what's really interesting. I mean, what do we see? We see that this story it begins with his friendship in chapter 18, and it ends with his friendship in chapter 20. And so Eugene Peterson, who's a commentator on this passage, he says this. It's a great observation, I think. He says, in short, that during the most dangerous, evil chapters of David's life, this deep friendship with Jonathan bracketed the evil. Isn't this an amazing observation? I mean, literally, in the narrative, in the story, the friendship of Jonathan is the bracket at the beginning and the end. And so this friendship with Jonathan literally contains the evil. And it doesn't drown David. It made it containable. It made it bearable. It made it survivable. He never would have made it, literally, he never would have survived without his friendship with Jonathan. And church, I want you to hear me. You're going to have trouble. You're going to have tragedies. You're going to have storms in this life, difficulties in this life, and you will sink without friends. And you're never going to make it through the evil. You're never going to make it through it without friendship, close friends. Friendships are what sustains your life. It has sustaining importance, and you'll never make it out without close friends. They will sustain you. So let me just ask you this question. Who do you have, and who has you? Who do you have? Who is that friend in your life, and who are you that friend for? Who is it that you can count on to promote you, to protect you, to be present in the pain? And who is it that can count on the same thing from you? And men, let me talk to you, whether you're watching this online, you're sitting here in this room, I'm just going to talk straight to the men. We're not as good at this as our women are. We're not. This is not our strong suit. Women live on average 7 to 8 years longer than men do. And one reason is their relationships. In fact, there were years ago, an author named David Smith, he wrote a book called The Friendless American Male. And as depressing and disturbing as that title is, studies and surveys have shown time and time again that men are far less likely to have meaningful relationships than women do. Fewer friends, and the friends that we do have generally aren't as close. Men, we tend to have activity friends. That's what we have. You know, guys we go golfing with, work with, we play pickleball with, we coach with, all those things, and that is a fantastic start. I'm not belittling that, okay? That's a good start, but those friendships don't require much and really don't deliver much. Because when golfing is over or soccer is over, then the friendship just kind of fizzles. And I think what happens for a lot of us guys is we just tend to think that, you know, having friends, close friends really isn't that masculine. And we've got this thing inside of us. It's like, well, I should be able to just do this on my own. I don't need anybody. It's just me. I can get this done. And I'll just point out once again that Jonathan and David were about as masculine as you can get. You got a giant killer and Rambo, right? I mean, and they're like, we need each other, man. This is what it is. And, you know, you've got these guys. They are tough dudes, and they understood that they needed each other. And guys, listen, you can be a tough dude, but you still need someone. And whenever you have someone, it's going to make you a better someone. You'll be a better husband. You'll be a better dad. You'll be a better employee. You'll be a better boss. All these things will be better. Having close friends doesn't make you weak. It makes you stronger. And that's why as a church, we're here to help. We try to provide as many environments as we can for guys to get to know each other, for gals to get to know each other as well. It's why we've got small groups. We've got all kinds of things. And so Group Link is coming up next week. If you're not in a group, by all means, then you should come up here next Sunday night at 5 o'clock and try to get involved with some other folks, okay? We've got other things. We've got strength groups, which are just small groups of guys, which are probably about 4 guys or 4 gals, and they just form up. They meet once a month. And these are incredible opportunities for deep friendships to be born and to grow, to be formed, and to help make us stronger. Because here's the thing, we know this, that having the right friends leads to the right kind of life. In fact, that's the bottom line. Your faithful friends, having faithful friends, will lead to faithful living. It will make you better at everything that you do. You need these relationships in your life. And so my challenge to you this week is just simply this. Would you make an excuse to spend time with a friend this week? Make an excuse. I mean, you can even say, hey, preacher said if we get together and play cards, we could live 10 to 15 years longer. And so why don't we get together and play some cards this week or go out to coffee? Because I want to be 140. That's where I want to go, okay? So let's just do that. So make an excuse to spend some time with a friend this week. The Bible says in John chapter 15 that greater love has no one than this, to lay down one's life for one's friends. And as we wrap this message up, I just want to say this. Whenever you think of David and Jonathan, I want you to think of Jesus. Because David was saved by Jonathan's wounds. He became king because of Jonathan's humility, because of Jonathan's sacrifice. He became who he was supposed to be because he had Jonathan in his life. But what they didn't know all those years ago was that God himself was going to come as the perfect friend. He was going to set aside his rights. He was going to die on a cross for all of our sins. And listen, if David was changed, if David was saved and became who he was supposed to be because of Jonathan, how much more then will you be changed, saved, and become who you are supposed to be if you trust the greatest friend, Jesus? Because everything Jonathan did, Jesus did better. Jonathan gave up his rights to the throne for David, and Jesus gave up his rights as Son of God for you and for me. Jonathan stood by David knowing the risks involved. He made himself vulnerable even though carrying a sword, and he chose loyalty to David over his father Saul. He knew that by aligning himself with David, he put himself into a dangerous position, but he was willing to face the danger. Jesus, on the other hand, had ultimate power. He could have called 10,000 angels to defend himself, but he chose to become vulnerable to the point of death on a cross. And while Jonathan was vulnerable because of his circumstances, Jesus voluntarily made himself vulnerable for us. And so everything Jonathan did in giving up his rights, standing by David, making himself vulnerable, points us to how Jesus did the same, but on a cosmic scale, and ultimately for the salvation of the world, the salvation of you, the salvation for me. He is the friend who sticks closer than a brother, the one who is always there, the one who never leaves, never forsakes, the one who promotes us to the Father, who protects us from evil, and who is always present in our pain. And if you've never entered into a friendship with Jesus, today is a great day to say, I want that in my life. To experience the blessing of baptism, to be united with him, and to begin walking and to begin living a new life through the power of his death, burial, and resurrection. And if you're watching online, you can visit the website on the screen, corinth.cc/decided, and say you're ready to begin that relationship. If you're in the room, you can grab a decision card and say you're ready for that today, and you can experience the life that he has for us. So God, today we thank you that Jesus is our hope and our salvation. And we thank you for the people that you have placed in our lives who have promoted us, who have protected us, who have been present with us in our pain. And God, we are thankful that just like 2 Corinthians 1 says, that since we've been comforted in our troubles, we can comfort others in theirs. And so help us to not only find the relationships that we need, but to be the person that somebody else needs in their time of need. So we love you, and we pray all of this in Jesus' name. Amen and amen. Blessings on your head. We'll see you all next week.